Last week, I got a chance to participate in a question quickfire activity that required me to generate questions related to my practice. Today, I'm going to look at my quickfire questions and organize them into different categories to see how they relate to each other and ultimately to have a deeper understanding of my questions. There are a number of possible groupings, but in this video, I'm going to examine my questions from 3 different perspectives. First, single questions versus questions with follow-up questions. As I was looking at my questions, the first thing I noticed was that there are questions with follow-up questions such as, how does our school culture affect EBS or emergent bilingual students? Do emergent bilingual students get stigmatized by their teachers and peers for enrolling in the ELL program? Why or why not? If so, how can we eliminate the stigma? Or some follow-up questions are created by simply adding why at the end. For instance, aside from the language barrier, what are other challenges faced by EBS or emergent bilingual students in their mainstream class, and why? Reflecting on my quickfire question activity, I think I spent a little more time on this type of question. Comparing the 2 categories, I noticed that I have more questions that do not have any follow-up questions. And it might be because they took less time to generate, although I'm not saying that this type of question is not complex. Moving on, to better sort my questions, I revised some and separated the questions with their follow-up questions. The second way I grouped these questions were based on Warren Berger's Why, What If, How framework explained in his book, A More Beautiful Question. I have more how questions compared to what if, and why. I began thinking about the reason behind it and realized that, as someone who has been in the field of education for about a decade, I assumed that I knew the answers to the whats and whys, and so I jumped and started asking how questions, thinking that I was saving time and being more efficient. However, Berger suggests that, to be a good questioner, you should step back and look at the situation with fresh eyes. Also, I realized that some questions do not neatly fall under Berger's why, what if, how framework, even if these questions are still worth examining. Lastly, the third grouping refers to people who can influence or be impacted by the questions. Among the 3 groupings, this was the most challenging one for me. Since my questions are about my practice and most of the time there are several people involved in the process of teaching and learning, many of the questions are related to more than one stakeholder. For instance, the questions, what is the most effective approach for teaching emergent bilinguals? Why? And do emergent bilinguals get stigmatized by their teachers and peers for enrolling in the ELL program? Why not? Relate to both teachers and me and students. The question, how should I deal with parents who do not want to enroll their child in the ELL program even if their child needs support in improving in their English skills, involves all 3 groups, teachers and me, students and parents. This exercise allowed me to have a deeper understanding of my questions by seeing common and unusual patterns and viewing my questions from different angles.